Welcome, everybody, and Chag Sameach from Israel, our radio. Welcome to the next edition of Shira B'Tzibor. We have had so much fun over these past few months, singing with everybody and celebrating with everybody and really just immersing ourselves in Israeli culture from wherever we may be. And I think this one, we've had a bigger registration than we've ever had. So thank you so much. I hope you've had a wonderful Yom Ha'atzmaut celebration over the past few days. And from what I can tell, things are still going strong. There are events happening all over the Jewish community, and it really is a beautiful thing. But don't worry about the events happening elsewhere. We're just going to talk about the events going on right here. And here at Israel, our radio, we are gathering together one more time to sing. And sometimes that can be very therapeutic. Sometimes that can be very sentimental. Sometimes it helps us connect to one another, connect to within ourselves. It's a tremendous thing, and I'm so glad that you're doing it with all of us here. I want to let you know a few things, a few housekeeping things. Number one, you're going to stay muted throughout the entire program. We'll have a chance at the end to unmute and to get to say hello to each other after the program. But in the meantime, we're going to keep everybody muted because there's no way we can actually sing together on Zoom, unfortunately. So Shirley and Julie, who are our wonderful hosts, they will be the only ones who you can hear, and you should and really need to sing along to your heart's content, because nobody else is listening but you. And isn't that a great, great thing? Also, if you have comments or questions, please use the chat feature on Zoom. We'd love to hear from you. Let us know if you're having a great time or if there's anything we can do better. Also, you can always reach me. My email address is josh@myisraelimusic.com. Also, I want to remind you, as I always do, that we have if you enjoy what we do, if you like what we have, if you enjoy the events, the podcast, the community, please help us continue to do what we do. Visit myisraelimusic.com/membership and become a member of myisraelimusic.com. So I'm going to once again welcome our hosts, Shirley and Julie Cohen. They are hard at work so often, creating a great experience for all of us. And I'm sure it's going to be just as wonderful today. Glad to have you guys. Thank you, Shirley and Julie, for everything you do on behalf of our community. And I'm going to turn the floor over to you. Chag Sameach, and thank you in advance for a wonderful hour.
Thank you so much. Let's go to the first slide. We're going to start with a classic pioneering song, Artza Alinu. We've come to the country and we're plowing and we're planting. This is a classic pioneer song, and the pioneers that came to Israel in the early part of the 20th century were very much tied to the land, and a lot of the songs that were written during that time were written about the land and working the land and the pioneering experience. Artza Alinu, Artza Alinu, Artza Alinu, Artza Alinu, Artza Alinu, Artza Alinu. כבר חרשנו וגם זרענו, כבר חרשנו וגם זרענו, אבל עוד לא קצרנו, אבל עוד לא קצרנו, אבל עוד לא קצרנו, אבל עוד לא קצרנו. Let's do it again. Artza Alinu, Artza Alinu, Artza Alinu, Artza Alinu, Artza Alinu, Artza Alinu. כבר חרשנו וגם זרענו, כבר חרשנו וגם זרענו, אבל עוד לא קצרנו, אבל עוד לא קצרנו, אבל עוד לא קצרנו, אבל עוד לא קצרנו. Our next song is also from the pioneering period, Kum Bachur Atzel, Get Up You Lazy Boy. This is sort of the Israeli answer to Are You Sleeping, Frere Jacques. There is a Hebrew version of that song, but this is more Israeli because we're not listening for the bells, we're listening for the rooster. Because in the old days in Israel, a lot of the pioneers were living on farms or living in areas where people had the roosters in their backyard. So we're going to sing the song through once, just in unison. Is that a good key? Is that okay? Alrighty, so we're going to sing it through once, just as is, and then we're going to sing it as a round, and you can either sing with me or with Julie, whichever you like.
Who's starting?
Well, we'll figure that out in a minute. How about that? Whoever sings first. All right, here's your starting note. 1, 2, ready, sing. Kum Bachur Atzel v'tzel avoda. Kum Bachur Atzel v'tzel avoda. Kum v'tzel avoda. Kum v'tzel avoda. Kukuriku, kukuriku, time to go kara. Kukuriku, kukuriku, time to go kara. Kum Bachur Atzel v'tzel avoda. Kum Bachur Atzel v'tzel avoda. Kum v'tzel avoda. Kum v'tzel avoda. Kukuriku, kukuriku, time to go kara. Kukuriku, kukuriku, time to go kara. Kum Bachur Atzel v'tzel avoda. Kum Bachur Atzel v'tzel avoda. Kum v'tzel avoda. Kum v'tzel avoda. Kukuriku, kukuriku, time to go kara. Kukuriku, kukuriku, time to go kara. Everybody, kukuriku, kukuriku, time to go kara. Kukuriku, kukuriku, time to go kara. And of course, kukuriku is the cock-a-doodle-doo in Hebrew.
Just a quick housekeeping note before we continue. You may have to move the faces of everybody for those watching at home, depending on whether you want to see the Hebrew, the transliteration, or the English. So feel free to drag those faces around from Zoom, or you can even hide them all together, depending on what you want to see on the screen.
So Lynn, are you talking about the album Hebrew Play Songs for Children?
Yes, that sounds correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I had that. It was.
I figured.
Yep. That's what I listened to when I was in preschool age, and that's what got me hooked on.
Oh my gosh.
And in fact, if you can look up, you can research the album and you can research the woman who put together this album. It was released, I think, in the early 1960s, maybe, and it was a groundbreaking record because this was the first collection of Hebrew songs from Israel for children. And it was really, really well done. The song, I'm really big on accuracy. The songs were sung very accurately and very nicely and accessibly, and there was English narration in between them. And I recently found that there's a recording of it online. If you're interested, I can send you the link. And when my daughter was in preschool, many years after I was, they actually still had that record.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was really great. All
Thanks.
right. Speaking of preschools, Zum Gali Gali. If you walk into pretty much any Jewish preschool in the United States, you're going to hear this song, Zum Gali Gali. And I was always taught it's the classic Israeli work song, and there's this whole myth of not myth, I can't think of the word, but the pioneers they would go and work in the fields in the day, and they would sing songs to kind of keep their spirits up, and they would go back home at night, and instead of collapsing in bed, they would dance around the campfire. And we had this work song, Zum Gali Gali, that the pioneers were all excited about working, and work is great for the pioneers and very Israeli, right? And then the word Zum Gali Gali, those are actually nonsense syllables, like instead of singing la la la. And what I was taught at Gratz College in the graduate program, by the way, I know Lynn was in that program also, was that they used words like Zum Gali Gali and Tumba Tumba, things like that, that sort of sounded like Hebrew, but they weren't Hebrew, because you had so many immigrants coming from all these different countries, and they were just acquiring the language, and it was helpful to them to sort of get the sounds of the language, even though they weren't quite speaking yet. So last year I was speaking with a colleague about this song, and for some reason I pulled out my phone and started Googling it, and I was surprised to learn that the song was first published in the United States around like 1945, and the origins of the song really aren't so clear. There was this 1945 version in this publication of supposedly Israeli or Jewish songs, and then I think about 10 years later it was published somewhere. Also, the melody was played by a German band leader back in the 1930s in Germany, like an orchestra leader. And then if you go, there's a website called Yevarechecha, which has information and song lyrics about songs that, for the most part, were written and released pre-statehood, so prior to 1948. Yevarechecha says that there's sort of a local version that was from a kibbutz, and they had like a stage, like a musical, and it was like Tsum Bella Bella Bella, and they have a recording from some old guy. It's really interesting. So is this Israeli? Is it not Israeli? I don't know, but that's the story. All right, same Zum Gali Gali. We're going to sing it one time together in unison, and then we'll do a round, and you can decide who you're singing with. Zum Gali Gali Gali, Zum Gali Gali, Zum Gali Gali Gali, Zum Gali Gali, Zum Gali Gali Gali, Zum Gali Gali, Zum Gali Gali Gali, Zum Gali Gali. Hechalutz leman avodah, avodah leman hechalutz, hechalutz leman avodah. Avodah leman hechalutz. I'm going to take a second to pause, because there's two ways to sing the round. There's, if you're a musician, some people come in on the downbeat, which I think that's what we're going to do. And some people come in at a different point. So if we're not singing it exactly the way you're used to singing it, it's okay. It's folk. Zum Gali Gali Gali, Zum Gali Gali, Zum Gali Gali Gali, Zum Gali Gali, Zum Gali Gali Gali, Zum Gali Gali, Zum Gali Gali Gali, Zum Gali Gali. Hechalutz leman avodah, avodah leman hechalutz, hechalutz leman avodah, avodah leman hechalutz. Gali Gali, Zum Gali Gali, Zum Gali 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 Gali Gali, Zum Gali Gali. So our next song is Tzena Tzena. That's also an old classic. Look, there's 4 names on the slide. Why? Because one guy wrote it, was challenged to write it for an officers' party. It was pre-statehood time. It was 1940 something or other. I have it in my notes somewhere. And there was going to be, there were some 1941. Thank you. So Meron. Which one? Issachar Meron. So he was like volunteering with the British Army, and someone challenged him, hey, we're having this party tonight, can you write a song? And so he wrote the song. Somebody gave him some lyrics, and they played it at this officers' party. It became really, really popular, and then the song made it over to the US, where Julius Grossman, or Julius Grossman, sort of rearranged it and made it into a form so that it could become a round. And there was this whole legal battle about who owned the rights to the song, and I don't know what. The American guy lost. My mother was in Julius Grossman's choir. Oh my God. Yeah. Wow. That is so cool. So there you go. I encourage you to look up the song and read about it. It's a very interesting story. I'm skipping a lot of the details. But the song is actually a little bit controversial, because they were, since they were associated with the British Army, the song is sort of about, hey, these British officers are on leave and they're going out to one of the Israeli villages because they were occupying the land at the time. And, you know, they wanted to go for some rest and relaxation. And, hey, girls, come on out. Don't be afraid of us soldiers. You know, we're virtuous men. And Some people, many years later kind of took offense at that. Be that as it may, this song at one point was one of the best known Israeli songs in the world. There are about 600 recorded performances. Many of them are in English. And it was recorded by Pete Seeger, Judy Garland, Connie Francis and Bing Crosby, Arlo Guthrie, a lot of famous American people, because in the early days of statehood, Americans especially were very, very fascinated with Israeli culture and Israeli music and Israeli dance, and a lot of American artists, mostly folk artists, made recordings of Israeli songs. So we're going to sing this in unison the first time through, and then we're going to try around. Is that too low for you? Alrighty. All right, so this song goes low and high, so if you're uncomfortable in one spot, you'll be happier in the other. Tzena 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 הבנות תורנה חיילים במושבה אל נא ארתיך בן עמי בן חייל השתבה Tzena Tzena הבנות תורנה חיילים במושבה Ben Chayli Sava Tzena 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 הבנות תורנה חיילים במושבה אל נא ארתיך בן עמי בן חייל השתבה Tzena Tzena הבנות תורנה חיילים במושבה אל נא ארתיך בן עמי בן חייל השתבה Tzena 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 Yevarechecha. This is from the second Hasidic Song Festival, in which it won first place. Israel was really big on song festivals and dance festivals. There was first they had just regular secular song festivals, folk whatever song festivals, and then in the 1960s Hasidic music was sort of being revived, and believe it or not, those of you who are familiar with Israeli music will find this interesting, I hope. Believe it or not, they were kind of concerned that the Hasidic and the Jewish style music would sort of die out, because many of the songs that were being composed, published in Israel were pretty much secular, or they were maybe nationalistic, but not so much religious. And so they started this Hasidic Song Festival because it was the style, that let's revive the Hasidic music and let's bring the religion back in. Interestingly, in the past decade or so, with so many of the Mizrahi, the Middle Eastern style art, performing artists, becoming more prominent, whereas that kind of music used to be sort of considered to be second class, there is a new sort of wave of religiosity and kind of religious influenced music coming in, like of these Ribo and people like that. But for a long time, the emphasis was mostly on secular. So they started this Hasidic Song Festival, and they took lyrics from Jewish sources and they composed new music. And so we have Yevarechecha. I'm going to take it down a step, all right? Okay. For the people. Yevarechecha Hashem Mitzion Urei B'tzut Yerushalayim Yevarechecha Hashem Mitzion Kol yemei yemechayecha Urei vanim levanecha Shalom HaYisrael Urei vanim levanecha Yerushalayim. Yevarechecha Hashem Mitzion, kol yemei yemechayecha. Urevanim levanecha, Shalom Yisrael. Urevanim levanecha, Shalom Yisrael. Urevanim levanecha, Shalom Yisrael. Urevanim levanecha, Shalom Yisrael. So we added the Hasidic Song Festival. There were also some children's song festivals added into the mix. And the Mizrahi people, as I said a few minutes ago, their music was sort of considered to be second class or sort of ghettoized a little bit. And they decided that they wanted their own song festival. So there was a Mizrahi Song Festival, like a Middle Eastern, or they called it Oriental Song Festival. And Lam'natzeiach Shir Mizmor was one of the songs from that festival. And you know what? I can't figure out what place it won. I looked it up, and it doesn't really say who the winners were. So I think it was pretty successful because this song seemed to be pretty big. And the Mizrahi Song Festival only lasted for about, I think, 11 years or so, because interestingly, the Mizrahi musicians themselves decided that it was kind of ghettoizing their music to have it as a separate thing. Alrighty, Lam'natzeiach. Lam'natzeiach Shir Mizmor Haril Adonai Kol Haaretz. Lam'natzeiach Shir Mizmor Haril Adonai Kol Haaretz. Yakum Adonai Yafutzu Ohev Ve'anusu Misanav Mipanav. Lam'natzeiach Shir Mizmor Haril Adonai Kol Haaretz. Lam'natzeiach Shir Mizmor Haril Adonai Kol Haaretz. Lo lo yanum ve'lo lo yishan, Shomer Yisrael Yisrael. Lam'natzeiach Shir Mizmor Haril Adonai Kol Haaretz. Lam'natzeiach Shir Mizmor Haril Adonai Kol Haaretz. Now we have a few songs about Jerusalem. The first one is Lach Yerushalayim. This was written in 1967, and oh wow, I'm just reading the comments. Excuse me. Written in 67, and I could not find out, was it written before the Six-Day War or after the Six-Day War? I'm thinking maybe it was written after the Six-Day War, because it talks about how a new light will shine, but I honestly don't know. So if anybody can figure it out, I know some of you are really good at Googling, but the articles that I read were not specific about it. Alrighty. Lach Yerushalayim ben chormotayim. Lach Yerushalayim or chadash yair. Belibeinu rak shir kayam. Lach Yerushalayim ben Yarden vayam. Lach Yerushalayim noftu min vahod. Lach Yerushalayim machrazim vasod. Belibeinu rak shir echad kayam. Lach Yerushalayim ben Yarden vayam. Lach Yerushalayim shir nisat tamid. Lach Yerushalayim, here Migdal David. Billy Beinu, Billy Beinu, Shira Ha'emek. Lach Yerushalayim, Ben Yarden Vayam. Alrighty. Our next Jerusalem song, Sisu Et Yerushalayim, also from the Hasidic Song Festival, won third place in 1970. Sisu Et Yerushalayim, Gilu Ba kol Ohev, kol Ohev. Sisu Et Yerushalayim, Gilu Ba kol Ohev. La'm'natzeiach David הפקדתי שומרים כל היום וכל הלילה. לa'm'natzeiach David הפקדתי שומרים כל היום וכל הלילה, כל הלילה. שישו את ירושלים כאילו בא כל אוהביה, כל אוהביה. שישו את ירושלים כאילו בא כל אוהביה. אל תירא ואל תחרב יעקב, כי יפוצו משנאיך. אל תירא ואל תחרב יעקב, כי יפוצו משנאיך מפניך. שישו את ירושלים כאילו בא כל אוהביה, כל אוהביה. שישו את ירושלים כאילו בא כל אוהביה. שיא סביב עינייך וראי כולם נקבצו ובאו לך. שיא סביב עינייך וראי כולם נקבצו ובאו לך. שישו את ירושלים כאילו בא כל אוהביה, כל אוהביה. שישו את ירושלים כאילו בא כל אוהביה. Just catching up with the comments. Yeah, I learned it as Noladeti LaShalom for Tzena Tzena. But the lyrics were changed at some point. Again, this is folk music. And tichabena, like from the root of the word to hide. So titirena, maybe it's from the verb to see, and like don't not want to be seen. Maybe somebody can tell me because I can't really look it up right now. But tichabena, it's from the modern Hebrew word to hide. So at some point it was changed. When I put the song lyrics, when I hand those song lyrics into Josh to put on the slides, I check several sources to make sure that I'm getting a consensus. Because again, it's a folk tradition, even though many of these songs were like composed as opposed to being Oh, thank you. So fear, don't be afraid. Thank you. Okay. From like, yeah, Yirat Hashem, very good. Thank you. So they changed it from don't be afraid to don't hide. What was I saying? Yeah, so it's a folk tradition, and so these songs are, composed, or the lyrics are written or whatever, but then they kind of morph over the years, and that's where there's variations in tunes, variations in lyrics, things like that. Okay, Yerushalayim Shel Zahav. Okay, fine. There's so much to say, and I'm not going to say it. I encourage you. There's a podcast. If anybody wants to put the link in the chat, I would be really grateful. There's many articles written about this song, written by Naomi Shemer, who is one of the foremost composers, lyricists in Israel. The song was written in 1967, before the Six-Day War. So there's a second verse where we kind of long for entry into the old city and how it's so sad, and the water holes have dried up and we don't hear the shofar anymore. And then once the Six-Day War happened, she added a verse saying, yeah, we've returned to the old city and everything is all hunky-dory. Shira podcast, thank you. Alrighty. So I encourage you to read about it, listen to the podcast. It's really Israel's story. Thank you. Okay. Avir harim saluk hayayin vereach oranim Nisa beruach harbaim im kol pamonim Uv'tardimati lan va'even shvuya b'chaloma העיר אשר מדד יושבת ובליבה חומה ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור הלא לכו שירייך אני כינור ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור הלא לכו שירייך אני כינור איך יבשו בות המים כיכר השוק ריקה ואין פוקדת הר הבית בעיר העתיקה ובמרות אשר בסלע מעללות רוחות ואין יורד אל ים המלח בדרך יריחו ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור הלא לכו שירייך אני כינור ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור הלא לכו שירייך אני כינור אך בבואי היום לשיר לך ולך לקשור תרים קטונתי מצעיר בנייך ומאחרון המשוררים כי שמך צורבת השפתיים כנשיקת שרף אם אשכחך ירושלים אשר כולה זהב ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור הלא לכו שירייך אני כינור ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור הלא לכו שירייך אני כינור Just reading the comments about the alto who knows all the harmony, and I wish we could do it in real time. One day they'll have a nice technology and we can really sing at the same time with no delay. חזרנו אל בורות המים, לשוק ולכיכר, שופר קורא בהר הבית, בעיר העתיקה. ובמרות אשר בסלע, אלפי שמשות צורחות, נשוב נרד אל ים המלח, בדרך יריחו. ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור הלא לכו שירייך אני כינור ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור הלא לכו שירייך אני כינור Oh, it must have been nice. I'm seeing the thing about the Kimmel Center. That must have been awesome. Very nice. All right. Can we see the gallery for a few minutes? All right. Let me just see where we are here. Okay. I would like to tell you about my Hebrew school teacher, Mrs. Paley. And I would also like to thank Max, who I think is here. Are you here, Max? I can't see. Yeah? Okay. So, I had this really great Hebrew school teacher named Irene Paley when I was in elementary school, and I grew up in a small town, and we didn't have a heck of a lot of resources because it was before the internet, and there wasn't a lot of exchange of culture out to the small towns. But this is Mrs. Paley, from what I knew from when I was a kid. She had grown up in Germany, and then at some point she emigrated to Israel, and then she came to the United States, and she would come into her classroom with these string shopping bags. And back then in America, reusable bags were not a thing, and to us it was like really, really foreign. And so she'd have these string shopping bags with her music books, and she kind of taught us by the Ulpan method, but we didn't really know that that's what it was. She would say Hebrew phrases. Instead of close the door, she'd say Tiskor Tadelet, and she'd greet us with Shalom Uvracha. And when the boys would misbehave, is Leah here? I can't see. Is Leah Samuels here? Well, anyway, my daughter's gonna find out. So some of the we had a really small class. It was like 7 or 8 kids. No, I'm not sure if that's the right Leah, but I hope it is. So we had about 7 or 8 kids, and some of the boys were just like crazy. Just they were not very well behaved, and Leah's cousin Mark and a couple of his friends would give this teacher the hardest time. And all I can remember is her saying, "I have not asked you," in her German, doing a bad German accent, and "Ani lo sha'alti otcha." And so, like, for years, I've always remembered this phrase because it was drummed into my head, because these boys would just go nuts. But it was a wonderful experience to grow up in her classroom, and she taught us this song, Yerushalayim, me'al Pisgat Hatzofim, and she used to just belt it out, and we learned the words, and we didn't even know what it meant back then. But once I learned what the meaning was, that the poet, the lyricist, is standing up on Mount Scopus, and he's looking down over the old city. I remember going to Israel as a young adult and standing up on Mount Scopus and looking over at the old city and just remembering the lyrics of the song, and like I still get chills thinking about it and thinking about Mrs. Paley and all the wonderful things that she taught us. So Yoram Gaon is I guess he made the most popular recording of this song. I certainly can't sing it as well as he can, but I'll give it a try.
Shirley, I want to give you just a quick second to catch your breath, and I hope everybody's having a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful time singing along. I'd like to know from all of you. We heard some of you were performing or watching this past Wednesday in Philadelphia, the big concert with lots and lots of singers and Achinoam Nini and a whole bunch of fun. I'd like to know from the rest of you. Tell us in the chat how you celebrated Yom Ha'atzmaut this year. Let us know what you did for Israel's big 75th birthday. The celebrations are ongoing, but I want to know how you observed this past week. So be sure to let us know as you're singing along. Shirley, you're doing a fantastic job, and we're going to send it back to you.
Thank you. So why did I mention Max's name? Every so often, Max is like, he just knows everything, and he's a master at finding information. And one day I asked Max, hey, can you help me find information on this Irene Paley? And so he was able to go into the records of, I think, a school that I think either she had taught at or she had attended. I can't exactly remember. But I learned through Max that she had been the principal at a language school in Germany. And in 1933, when there were laws passed that in Germany that Jews were restricted from certain professions, Irene Paley must have decided that she was going to emigrate to Israel. And so I found out her years, that she had lived there from 1933. I had thought she went in like 39 or something, but she actually left Germany much earlier than I had thought. And he actually showed me an image of the records of her that part of her history. So that was really cool. So she lived in I guess Palestine/Israel from 33 until about 49, which just must have been a really fascinating, exciting time to live there. And she was probably there when a lot of these classic songs were brand new. So that was really cool. So thanks, Max. Alrighty, I'm gonna take a crack at this, but I'm not Yoram Gaon. So drown me out. Me'al Pisgat Hatzofim Eshtach Velach Apayim מעל פסגת Hatzofim, שלום לך ירושלים. מהדורות חלמתי עלייך, לזכות לראות באור פנייך. ירושלים, ירושלים, האירי פנייך לבנך. ירושלים, ירושלים, מחורותייך אבנך. מעל פסגת Hatzofim, שלום לך ירושלים. אלפי גולים מקצור כל תבל, נושאים אלייך עיניים. באלפי ברכות היי ברוכה, מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה. ירושלים, ירושלים, אני לא אזוז מפה. ירושלים, ירושלים, יבוא המשיח, יבוא. Shir Ha'emek. Does anyone actually know this song? Can you please put in the chat? Okay, good. All right. So I fell in love with this song. I studied music education in Israel, and in my choral conducting class, I think this was the first piece that they expected us to conduct up in front of the class. And I'd never heard it before. Oh, good, good. I'd never heard it before. Yeah, Josh knows it because I forced him to play it on the radio twice. At least twice. So some of those of you who are regular listeners to Israel Hour, you probably heard this. But I remember conducting the song. I just fell in love with it. I thought it was awesome. And when I came back to the United States and I went back to the graduate program in Jewish music at Gratz College, I was allowed to apprentice with the head of the music department. They had a Gratz College community choir. Lynn, I don't know, did they make you sing with them? Because they required all of the graduate students in my era. I think Lynn graduated right when I started or just before. I shouldn't say forced. They encouraged the graduate students to sing with this community choir. And I was allowed to apprentice, and I conducted an arrangement of this song for the choir, and we did it in a performance. This song, you can find it on YouTube, the original film back around 1934. One of the Jewish agencies, I'm trying to remember which one, the United Jewish Appeal, the United Israel Appeal, sorry. So they wanted to make this fundraiser music of what does life look like in Palestine, and then we're going to take this film and we're going to show it to all the diaspora philanthropists and try to get money to support Israel. And so they approached the composer Daniel Sambursky, and they asked him to write a song for this film, and they were going to film it on a kibbutz and show kibbutz life. And he tried to write lyrics. He didn't do such a great job, and so he approached Natan Alterman, who was a very prominent Israeli poet, and he asked Natan, hey, can you please write me some lyrics? So Natan did, and it's about the Jezreel Valley. And at that point in time, there was a kibbutz, there was a moshav, like a little village there, a lot of agriculture going on, and they're like really proud of the pioneering spirit that built these settlements. And it's a song about like the evening falls in the Jezreel Valley, and it mentions the settlements and whatever. And then in the middle, in the second verse, it gets a little bit dark. And I finally dawned on me this morning, pretty much every song that I see with lyrics from Alterman has some sort of darkness in it. Our last session that we had, who sang the lullaby, Go to Sleep, Honey, and by the way, there's these horsemen coming at you. So, be a little bit scared, but don't worry, nothing's going to happen. So it's really kind of interesting. I should read up more on Alterman and find out like why he brought up this dark stuff. Because you'll see in the second verse, it talks about somebody got shot and somebody fell, but that was kind of the reality of life in Palestine back then, in the land of Israel, that there were dangers and they had to watch out. Okay. Let's go on with the slides. I'm going to take this up a little bit. Bamnucha layagea umarka le'amel Laila chive mistareya Astodemek Yisrael Tamil Mata Uvanamea Mi Beit Alpha Nala Mama Laila Milel Tmama Be'Israel Numa Emek Eretz Tiferet Anu Lecha Mishmeret Ofel Behar Giroa Sus Toher Mitzel Mitzetzel Koze Akaf Gavoa Mistotemek Yisrael Mi Yarau Mize Sham Nafal Mi Beit Alpha Nalal Mama Laila Milel Tmama Be'Israel Numa Emek Eretz Tiferet Anu Lecha Mishmeret. Waiting for the next line. Thank you. Yam Hadagan Mitnoea Shir Ha'emek Sohi Artzi Ustoteha Sehu Emek Yisrael Tevorach Artzi V'titalal Mi Beit Alpha Nalal Mama Laila Milel Tmama Be'Israel Numa Emek Eretz Tiferet Anu Lecha Mishmeret. Noladeti LaShalom. Alrighty. This was written by Uzi Chitman. He was a composer, a songwriter. He came from a background where his father was a cantor, his mother was secular, and they had a lot of pluralism in their house, which is really cool. He himself was pretty much secular by the time he grew up. But interestingly, he's the guy who wrote the tune for Adon Olam, Asher Malach. He was also Ashkenaz. His father was Ashkenazi and was an Ashkenazi cantor. But interestingly, he kind of crossed over and wrote some songs for some Mizrahi artists, some Middle Eastern artists, and actually was really instrumental, no pun intended, in getting some of their songs on the radio. He wrote this song in 1977, right around when the peace process was happening with Egypt. And it was also in honor of the birth of his first child. Find a key for that. Not gonna sing? Okay. There we go. אני נולדתי אל המנגינות ואל השירים של כל המדינות. נולדתי ללשון וגם למקום, למעט להמון, שיושיט יד לשלום. אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יגיע, אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יבוא, אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יופיע, אני רוצה להיות כבר בו. אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יגיע, אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יבוא, אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יופיע, אני רוצה להיות כבר בו. We're gonna skip the interlude. אני נולדתי אל החלום, ובו אני רואה שיבוא השלום. נולדתי לרצון ולאמונה שהנה הוא יבוא אחרי 30 שנה. אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יגיע, אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יבוא, אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יופיע, אני רוצה להיות כבר בו. אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יבקיע, אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יבוא, אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יופיע, אני רוצה להיות כבר בו. נולדתי לאומה ולשנים 2000 שמוע על האדמה ולך חלקת שמיים והיא רואה צופה, הנה עולה היום והשעה יפה, זו אישת שלום. אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יגיע, אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יבוא, אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יופיע, אני רוצה להיות כבר בו. אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יגיע, אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יבוא, אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יופיע, אני רוצה להיות כבר בו. I have to stop reading the comments. Barbara, that's hilarious. Your husband, Uzi Chipman was your husband's neighbor? That's really wild. You're going to sing on this? Okay. All right. We're limited in time, and we have a few more songs, so we're going to have to edit a little bit. So I definitely like to do this one, and I'd also like to do Ani Ohev Chocolate. Is that okay with you, Josh? Okay.
The floor is yours. If everybody's having fun, we'll keep on going as long as we can.
All right, I know we need to wrap up, so I think those two, and that's going to be it. Ani Ve'ata by Eric Einstein, Miki Gavrielov, and Tony Ray. Who's this Tony Ray guy? So Tony Ray is a Jamaican reggae artist, and he was very popular in Jamaica, and he kind of toured the world, and he went to Israel, and he fell in love, and he stayed there. And he has a club, like a nightclub. He performs, but also he owns this nightclub, and you can find some of his performances on YouTube. He wrote an English version of Ani Ve'ata, and we're just going to sing it in the style that Arik Einstein sang it in, but he does it kind of a reggaeized version, and it's really, really cool. So if you ever want to look it up on YouTube, go ahead. It's really entertaining. Alrighty. Is that a good key for you? Let's go a little bit higher. So this song, very, very popular. It is, I think it made #2 in the hit parade for Israel's 75th birthday. It's often been voted the most Israeli song, although these days I think it's being upstaged by Ein Li Eretz Acheret. All right, and we have a little bit of arrangement. Ooh, la 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 la. Ooh, la 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 la. La 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 la. Ooh, la 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 la. אני ואתה נשנה את העולם, אני ואתה אז יבואו כבר כולם. אמרו את זה קודם לפניי, זה לא משנה. אני ואתה נשנה את העולם. לה 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 לה. La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. אני ואתה ננסה מההתחלה, יהיה לנו רע, אין דבר, זה לא נורא. אמרו את זה קודם לפניי, זה לא משנה. אני ואתה נשנה את העולם. לה 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 לה, לה 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 לה, לה 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 לה, לה 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 לה. My friend, me and you, yes, we're gonna change the world. My friend, me and you, then the others will come too. Some said it before me earlier, doesn't matter. My friend, me and you, yes, we're gonna change the world. La 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 la, ooh, la 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 la, ooh, la 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 la, ooh, la 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 la. All right, I think we're going to close with this song, Ani Ohev, by Yehonatan Geffen, who passed away a little over a week ago. Yitzchak Klepter, who passed away earlier in this year. Really, really sad. This picture you see is the album cover for Hakeves HaShishas, or the 16 Sheep. Yonatan Geffen was an author, a lyricist, a poet, a journalist. Oh, that's fine. No problem. Journalist, and he wrote many, many songs for many people. He wrote many of David Brose's songs, and he was the one who translated the songs from Ha'isha She'iti, one of David Brose's biggest albums, from the Spanish into Hebrew. And he didn't know a word of Spanish, but he kept saying to David, okay, tell me what this feels like. Tell me what these words mean. You know, what's the feeling that you're trying to get to? And they worked on it for a couple of years, and they got the Hebrew really, really good. So one of the things that Yonatan Geffen is best known for is a book and the accompanying CD, or I'd say the subsequent CD, subsequently created CD called The 16th Sheep. And it was a book of stories and poems for kids, but he also kind of says it's kind of for adults, but also for kids. And there were poems and stories, and he got the idea to have some of them set to music. So Yoni Rechter, who was the keyboardist for Kaveret Pugi, wrote most of the tunes, but Yitzchak Klepter wrote the tune for this one. David Brose wrote one of the tunes, and he got a group together. It was Gidi Gov, David Brose, Yitzchak, I can't remember if he was part of it or not. Yehudit Ravitz sang with them, and they made the album. They went on tour, and many times it has won an award for like the best Israeli album ever. And this is kind of, it doesn't mention the word Israel per se, but the song kind of describes an Israeli childhood. La, la, la. Oh, and we're not doing the modulations. If you know the song well, there's a bunch of key changes. Forget about it. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. אני אוהב שוקולד ואוקרינה וארטיק וסוכריות ותותקינה. אני אוהבת ימי הולדת ושקיות עם דברים טובים ואת השמש ואת הירח וגם כמה כוכבים. אני אוהבת את החורף ואת הקיץ ואת הסתיו ואת האביב ואת מה שעכשיו. אני אוהבת קליט בעיקר עם סמות ואת סוטים הנמשים ואת סוטים העגומות. אני אוהבת אמא ואת הבגר ואת שולה הגננת ואת הדודה מרים. אני אוהבת סבא ואת סבתא, אני אוהבת אחותי, אבל הכי הכי הרבה אני אוהב אותי. לה la 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. There we go. All right. So we have one more. Is that right, Josh? Alrighty. Okay. Again, I'm going to ask my friends to spam the chat. This song Chai won second place in Eurovision in 19. Help me out.
83, I believe.
83. Alrighty. There's a lot of significance to the song. And Oprah Chaza, who sadly passed away in her 40s, was a magnificent Israeli singer, and she sang the song. And anyone who'd like to put links in the chat to articles or videos or whatever about the story, feel free. Sarit Haddad sang with Oprah on a hologram. Alrighty. Okay. שימו אחי, אני עוד חי, ושתי עיניי עוד נישאות לאור. רבים כוחי, אך גם פרחי, ולפניי שנים רבות לספור. אני שואל ומתפלל, טוב שלא עבדה עוד התקווה. עובר מזמור מדור לדור, כמעיין מאז ועד עולם. אני שואל ומתפלל, טוב שלא עבדה עוד התקווה. חי, 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 let me hear ya. כן, אני עוד חי, זה השיר שסבא שר לאבא, והיום אני עוד חי, חי, חי. עם ישראל חי, שהשיר שסבא שר לאבא, והיום אני הומים ימיי ולילותיי, ובשמיים עמוד האש עוד קם. אשיר בלי די, אפוס ידיי לידידיי אשר מעבר ים. אני שואל ומתפלל, טוב שלא עבדה עוד התקווה. חי, 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 כן אני עוד חי, זה השיר שסבא שרנו לאבא, והיום אני עוד חי, חי, חי. עם ישראל חי, זה השיר שסבא שרנו לאבא, והיום אני שימו חי. אני עוד חי, ושתי עיניי עוד נישאות לאור. אז כל החי, לכוחו אור חי, ולבניי המבקשים לחזור. אני שואל ומתפלל, טוב שלא עבדה עוד התקווה. חי, 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 כן אני עוד חי, זה השיר שסבא שרנו לאבא, והיום אני עוד חי, חי, חי. עם ישראל חי, זה השיר שסבא שרנו לאבא, והיום אני עוד חי. I'm not going to do the beginning because I'm not Shiri or anybody or Ofer or anybody, but that's it. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Shirley. This was wonderful. And what better way to end our Shira B'Tzibor celebration of 75 years since the founding of the State of Israel than with the words Am Yisrael Chai. Shirley and Julie, thank you so much for sharing your voices, your harmonies, your knowledge, your talent, your guitar playing. We had a terrific time. And I know we're getting a lot of great comments in the chat. We'll definitely do this again again. So stay tuned to our podcast and all our social media channels and everything for details on the next one. Once again, if you had a good time today and you want to help us continue to plan and produce events like this, please go to myisraelimusic.com/membership and become a member of myisraelimusic.com. But even if you don't do that, I love to hear from you if there's anything we can do to make your listening experience, your community experience, your Israeli musical experience any better. From anything we can do on our end, please email me at any time, josh@myisraelimusic.com. That's josh@myisraelimusic.com. I love hearing from each and every one of you, and I'm so grateful to get everybody together on a regular basis. So definitely watch for the next one, and I'm going to give everybody a chance. If you'd like to unmute, you're more than welcome to say hello, and thank you all so much for joining us.
Thank you.